Hello, everyone. Welcome to the How to Create a Successful Digital Marketing Strategy course. This is our free course, Proshark free course on how you can create a successful digital marketing strategy for your business in 2022. Today, you'll have myself, Joel Phillips, and you'll have Robert Fuller. Robert, say hi to everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Today, we're going to go through the introduction, tell you everything that we're going to cover, and go into a little bit of information surrounding what makes a successful digital marketing strategy. Robert, take it away.
So let's start with who this course is going to be for. This course is going to be for the new businesses that are just starting to develop their digital presence, start their digital marketing efforts. I want to make sure they start with a strong foundation. This course is also for the businesses that have been around for a little bit and maybe haven't seen the ROI on their digital efforts they'd like to, or more recently saw a significant drop in the type of returns their ads were producing. This is also for the veteran businesses that have been around for a while and maybe haven't made the digital transformation yet, but are starting to understand that in 2022, if you want your consumers to take you serious, you definitely have to have a digital presence. Did I miss anyone in there, Joe?
No, I think you covered pretty much everyone. The one thing that people need to realize in the digital marketing world, and we'll get into more of this later, but it is a changing landscape. Used to be that everybody could throw an ad up, have some success, have a decent return on their ad investment, and then move on. It's no longer like that. The market's way too noisy. There's too much activity, too many people involved in the market. So you have to have a cohesive strategy, a comprehensive strategy in how to deal with putting yourself out there and making it a cost-effective endeavor.
When we're talking about your digital marketing efforts and your digital marketing strategy, we're talking about anything that you do online to either produce leads or to produce sales. This can be any of your paid digital ads, from PPC to paid social ads. This can include your email marketing efforts, whether that's done through an autoresponder or whether it's done through single email campaigns. We're also referring to your content marketing, and that's across your social channels and your website.
Rob, would you say that this includes branding, or would you say that branding is a separate function?
I would say that branding should be a built-in component of your digital efforts, right? If your brand isn't congruent and cohesive across all of its digital and brick and mortar channels, then you're already creating a rift and some friction between your brand and your customers.
Would you say that one of the focuses of this course is going to be building trust by building brand, by making your digital footprint a cohesive and comprehensive and consistent messaging effort across all channels?
I definitely will. And I think that's one of the key components to the transformation in today's digital marketing arena, right? Like you mentioned earlier, it used to be the Wild West days of digital marketing, which as long as you knew how to throw up some form of digital ad, you were going to produce a return on that ad. Well, today's consumers are one of the most educated and most cynical generations of consumers in history. One of the key components and key focuses of any digital strategy is that all of your channels, all of your content, and all of your branding and marketing efforts should all be moving cohesively and congruently towards helping your audience steadily be moved down the field towards an actual purchase.
Then maybe we could touch on the goal, or not even the goal, because I mean, the goal is to get more conversions, period, at the end of the day, whether it's traffic, whether it's sales, whatever the case may be, the goal is to get more conversions. But maybe we should let everybody know how the landscape is changing. Is there a change in touch points? Is there a change in the way you have to approach the cynical consumer? Is there a way that you have to be different in your digital marketing efforts?
What you've done, you provided some perfect segue into the difference between traditional marketing and digital marketing. When we refer to traditional marketing efforts, we're referring to TV, newspaper, billboard, radio, all of the traditional marketing efforts. some of the key differences between that and what digital marketing provide is one that traditional marketing efforts are more expensive than digital marketing, right? It costs more to get a TV ad than it does to run a digital ad, regardless of whether that's pay-per-click or social ad.
To clarify, you're saying that traditional marketing piece by piece is more expensive than digital marketing, right?
Correct. Traditional marketing is more expensive. Then on top of which, when you look at purchases made via traditional marketing efforts, somebody generally would see your ad. They might see your billboard or see the TV ad, but then they would have to come into your store, kind of peruse, get to know you, get to know your services, get to know your products, and then would make a buying decision. With digital marketing, they can go online, take a look at your brand, take a look at your products, take a look at your services, see what your previous customer experiences were, and then decide online whether or not they wanted to purchase from your brand. And if your digital platform is set up correctly, 9 times out of 10, go ahead and make that purchase digital. Whereas traditionally, the purchase decision was made in store. Digital marketing has transitioned consumer buying behavior where that purchase decision is actually made online. This affords the opportunity to be constantly providing your audience with the necessary resources and information at the time that they need it to make what they feel is an informed and inspired buying decision. More recently, we're seeing a strong push towards consumer privacy rights. We're also seeing that because consumers are so familiar with digital marketing tactics, and because they're constantly bombarded with so much brand and sales messaging, that they're starting to become more blind and more jaded towards digital marketing efforts, which we're seeing the amount of pre-purchase touch points just explode. Whereas traditionally, we've seen it be somewhere in the 12 to 15 touch point range. More recently, we've seen that exploded into the anywhere from 17 to 25, even 30 in some cases, depending on what data you look at, of consumers being touched by your brand before they feel comfortable enough to make a purchase from the brand.
Let me clarify that when people say touch points, it used to be that if I sent an email message to somebody, that was considered a touch point. Nowadays, a touch point is considered an interaction, not just a time that a consumer sees me, but a number of times that consumers interact with me or my brand. It's a lot more difficult. So to sum up, for traditional marketing versus digital marketing, we can argue that digital marketing actually encompasses some forms of traditional marketing, but digital marketing makes it cheaper because the delivery is not necessarily in one spot driving a consumer to a store, but it's in all spots online driving consumers to online stores and or brick and mortar locations. But that people are trending towards non-brick and mortar stores. They're doing more shopping online. They're doing more research online. They're doing more investigation online. A lot more is happening online than even 5 years ago.
Well, and if you look at even the 2021 Christmas season numbers, digital sales actually outperformed brick and mortar sales pretty much across industries.
And that was the first time in history, right?
The first time in history. So you're looking at a technology that within 10 to 15 years has gone from something everybody was wondering, well, would anybody ever feel comfortable with spending money online, right? Remember when we used to have that argument? To this past holiday season, online sales significantly outperformed brick and mortar in-person sales.
We probably should clarify that even though there was a factor from the pandemic driving people online, that this trend probably will not reverse at any point ever again.
Well, you know, the funny thing about a technology that changes human behavior is that it will forever impact human behavior trends until one, either that technology no longer exists, or two, I guess the human race doesn't exist anymore, right? Yeah. So we're not going to see the trend towards people being more comfortable with buying online just all of a sudden go away. Not unless there's some drastic event.
It's like working remotely. People got used to it. And when people get used to it, they don't like to change. So shopping online is here to stay. And if you're not participating in the digital marketing world, then you're going to be negatively impacted. And companies that we talk to on a daily basis, Rob, they didn't make that transition. And now they're feeling the pain from it.
If you don't keep up with purchasing trends, your competitors are going to eat your lunch. Let's talk about digital marketing, right? What are the pros and cons? And I'll tell you what, let's go back and forth, Joe. I know that you love the devil advocate's position, so I'll give the pro and you come back to me with the con. How does that sound?
Sounds like a plan to me.
All right. So, and we kind of covered this previously, right? Digital marketing is much less expensive in the piece by piece cost than traditional marketing, right? A television ad is still going to cost you more than a Google ad or a Facebook ad.
Looking at the other side of that, it used to be that companies operated with more authority. When you saw that they were putting out commercials, television commercials, when you saw that they were taking out full page ads in newspapers, you knew that they were investing a lot of money into their marketing. You knew that these people had the basis and the wherewithal, and that gave you a level of trust because you knew they had money to be in business for a while if they were doing this. What happens when digital marketing becomes less expensive than traditional marketing is that trust and that authority gets eroded because almost everybody has done ads of some sort online, whether for a garage sale or whether for your business. No matter what the reason, people know that they can do ads online, and that diminishes the amount of trust or authority a company automatically garners by doing marketing.
Well said. It reduced the barrier to entry for advertising for small and medium-sized businesses, but consumers aren't dumb. They realize that that barrier to entry is lowered, so it doesn't hold the same level of authority that traditionally it did. Great point. What it also offers is it offers unparalleled access to your audience. Traditional marketing, your audience has to run across your marketing, whether they have to be reading the newspaper, watching the television channel, writing down the right highway, listening to the right radio station. They had to come to your marketing. Now with digital marketing, your marketing can go to them. You can follow them around on the internet. You can be with them if they're on Facebook or TikTok, or you can meet them in their email inbox. You can send them SMS text messages. You have an unparalleled access to your audience.
Now let's look at the other side of that. Again, it used to be that only companies that had a significant amount of marketing dollars set aside were able to access these ads and the ability to reach out to consumers. Now, rather than it being one company, you have 10,000 companies reaching out to their consumers. And your ability to cut through the noise, I mean, that number, and I say 1 to 10,000, that number's it's consistently gone up to where, depending on what industry you're in, there could be any number of people advertising in your space where it only used to be a few. Now it's many. So how do you differentiate yourself, Rob, with unparalleled access to audience? Because now everybody has it. Everybody's on there. Everybody's advertising. Look at the noise that you get in your email inbox. Look at the noise that you get. So how do you differentiate yourself? And that's a con of unparalleled access to audience.
No, and you hit it right on the head, right? The average consumer sees over 5,000 brand messages per day. Now, that's not limited to just online. That's not just on Facebook. That's cumulative. That's what they're going to get in their SMS inbox, what they're going to get in their email inbox, what they're going to get running, walking down the street. The average consumer today sees over 5,000 brand messages. So yes, you get that blindness. You get the consumer that's tuning it out. You also get this consumer rebellion. They've seen so much sales messaging. They're tired of dealing with companies that are only talking about sales, that don't have any type of community built around their brand, that aren't engaged and accessible with their audience. You really have to be able to develop that relationship with your audience, be engaged with them, build a community around your brand in order to cut through this marketing message and make them feel like your brand messaging is actually worth looking. One of the keys to really being able to cut through that noise, one of the big pros of digital marketing, you get to track your entire customer experience from the first engagement, from the first interaction, from the first exposure of your brand till after the purchase and through the lifetime of the customer, if that suits your product and your offerings, and if your brand is set up correctly.
Yes, but I'm going to go ahead and counter both points 3 and 4 here at the same time. But here's the deal. The tracking the entire customer experience, including the buyer journey, is dependent on the tools that have been available to marketers since the beginning of marketing time online, right? That's cookie tracking, pixel tracking, the ability to know what your consumer's behavior has been while they're online. Retargeting is the ability to see where somebody's been and show them ads based on their history. That is quickly going away. Apple is a great example. In iOS 14, they came out with the ability for their consumers to opt out of market tracking unless they wanted to be tracked. And we know how many people opt to be tracked online. Not very many.
13% of the iOS purchasers have opted into tracking since the change in regulation.
Okay, but now you're going to make me, because 13% doesn't sound too bad. So iOS is 40% of the market, right?
Yes.
So 13% out of 40% of the entire market has opted to be tracked and pursued. That's not a whole bunch of people, right? So if I exclude, what is that, 87% of 40% of the market, it's a pretty big chunk that I'm excluding, but not too bad, overcomable, right? Apple is 40% of the marketplace. Guess who's the rest of the marketplace, 60%, and who's going to be doing the same thing as Apple probably later this year. It was projected to be next year, 2023, but it'll probably be later this year. Google and Android will be allowing their consumers to opt out of any type of marketing tracking. That cuts out 87% of the entire market from tracking their buying experience and their buying journey. That's a big chunk of change. The one thing that I will say, and adding my own pro in here, is that we have ways to counter that. But the reality is everybody thinks that big data is their heroes for trying to protect consumers. It couldn't be farther from the truth. They could care less about consumer privacy. What they care about is fencing off their own data for their own use. A lot of people don't even know that Apple has its own ad system. Since they've gotten rid of iOS tracking for open market or third party, their ad system usage has gone way up. Why? Because they own the data that's now accessible just to them.
Yes, the unparalleled access, the ability to actually track the customer experience, to actually track the entire buying journey and understand what resources and information the consumer accesses at what juncture in the purchase process in order to feel comfortable making the purchase. So what that allows you to do is understand what information, what resources, what you have to feed the consumer at what point in order to keep moving them down the field towards a purchase. Joel pointed out very well that this is tied into the consumer revolt, right? Consumers realized how much access businesses had to their data and how that allowed them to manipulate consumers in some fashions in order to make a purchase, and they've revolted. So we're watching this push towards supposed consumer privacy, which is somewhat of a facade, right? Because while the traditional tracking methods are becoming obsolete, we watch Apple has already made the jump, although as you rightly pointed out, within their marketing platform, you have the ability to still access some of that data and some of that insights for targeting. But we've seen that just last month, the EU told Google Analytics that it was against privacy rights for them to do Google Analytics tracking. which is going to significantly expedite their initial transition from their traditional tracking pixel to a new system. There is opportunity to still track this if you set up your digital tracking efforts correctly, but it also has made the spaghetti against the wall approach that a lot of digital marketers have employed in their ad campaigns, that you just test everything and rely on the retargeting to see what's going to stick and what's going to convert. That option is quickly becoming too expensive, right? Because the traditional tracking methods aren't there. So what does this mean? This means that because this transformation is taking place, you can't just throw anything up and test everything and afford that. You actually have to have a comprehensive strategy in place to systematically approach your marketing in a way that all the pieces are working together to constantly be moving your audience towards a purchase. So what goes into a successful digital marketing campaign in 2022? A comprehensive digital marketing strategy, one that's user-centric and really focuses on the needs of the audience that you're trying to attract to your brand that's going to be most likely to purchase your products. You have to be focused on what resources and information that they're going to need at what point in their buying process and where they're going to need you to be delivering it to. Because the key is not to interrupt the conversations that your audience is having, but to join into them in a helpful and resourceful fashion at the point that they need it.
So, Rob, let's take a break here, because what has changed where people now need a comprehensive digital marketing strategy versus yesterday? Why does a company need to provide an overarching view of their digital marketing efforts to be effective nowadays? What's changed?
What we're seeing is one of the most transformative period in digital marketing since its inception. We're watching a strong push to user privacy rights, which is completely transforming tracking and retargeting. We're seeing one of the noisiest periods in digital marketing since people started utilizing it. We're also dealing with one of the most jaded generations of consumers in history that have been constantly and unceasingly bombarded with brand messaging in every aspect of their life online.
That's interesting. If I were a company and I said, you know what I've got, it's working, it's not working the best, but it's still working. How is a comprehensive digital marketing strategy going to help me?
The thing is, we're watching consumer expectations shift rapidly. And with the oncoming privacy rights and tracking changes, I think what used to work is going to quickly become extinct. Plus, consumers are looking for brands that are accessible and that are engaged on various platforms. Consumers no longer put stock on seeing a brand on just one platform. And if you're not present and engaged, they're really not trying to take you seriously.
If I were to put it all in a nutshell, a comprehensive digital marketing strategy is what's going to allow you to maintain a consistent and constant marketing message across multiple channels. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. It's what's going to allow you to be able to be present and provide the information and resources that your target audience is looking for at the time that they're looking for it. Because without being present and actually having a comprehensive presence online, you really don't even know where to begin as far as where to find your consumers and be present in the conversations that they're having.
Will a comprehensive digital marketing strategy improve the efficacy or effectiveness of digital marketing campaign, and how so?
Well, I think that what we're quickly going to be seeing is that the spaghetti against the wall approach is going to get phased out at one of the most rapid paces you could imagine, because we're watching the cost of digital ads increase. We're watching the amount of pre-purchase touch points skyrocket. And we're watching consumers expect more than just a sales approach from the businesses that they're spending their money with in today's age.
All right, so that makes sense. So then tell me what a comprehensive digital marketing strategy consists of.
So when it comes to a comprehensive digital marketing strategy, there's 5 components that you want to make sure that you cover thoroughly. The first is what's going on in your market. Who's your competitors, direct and indirect, as well as who are your SEO competitors? Who holds digital real estate that could be valuable for you and your business that might not even be offering products or services that have anything to do with your brand? If they own the real estate, there's somebody that you've got to consider a competitor. You have to know what your competitors are doing with their SEO. What keywords are they targeting? What pages are getting their most traffic? What type of resources are their audience most concerned with? What are they doing for their ad strategy, both paid and PPC? What seems to be working the best for them? What social platforms are they on, and how are they performing on those platforms? What type of engagement are they getting? What platforms seem to be working the best for them? What platforms are they running ads on? You need to know everything about your competition. See, the secret to this is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to make it roll better in some fashion. And one way to start knowing how to improve the wheel in your market is to know what's working for your competitors and where their gaps are. What are their platforms missing? Where are the opportunities that you can capitalize on? Now, as much as you need to know about your competition, you need to know just as much about your own brand.
If I can just step backwards for 1 second, back to competitors, I want to clarify that this is still the introduction to the course. And for people who have questions about what Rob was just talking about, we're going to be diving into that. We're going to be defining what is direct competitor, what is an indirect competitor. So don't worry, this is still just the introduction. Sorry to interrupt there, Rob.
No, not at all. I throw all this at people, and to me, it's just second nature. And I forget that they're probably over there like, well, how do you find out all of that information? This is just the introduction. As Joel said, we'll be covering that in detail and giving techniques and strategies in order to obtain all this information. Just as much as you need to know about your competition, you need to know about your own brand. What social platforms are you on? How are you performing on those platforms? Where are you running your digital ads? How are those digital ads performing? What's worked the best for you? What hasn't worked for you? When you look at your competition's SEO and traffic, where are the holes in your platform? Where are the opportunities that you're already outperforming your competition and you might be able to stretch the distance just a little bit further? You can't know where you're going if you don't know where you're starting. And you can't build a comprehensive strategy if you don't have a comprehensive understanding. You also have to do a target market analysis, an analysis of the people that you're trying to reach. Do you have a thorough understanding of who your target avatars are? Generally, businesses have 2 or 3 target type personas that are ideal for the type of individuals that would be interested in their product and services. The problem is most businesses don't take the time out to map out that understanding as thoroughly and as comprehensively as possible. The better you know who you're talking to, the easier it will be to talk to them in a way that resonates with them and leads them to purchase. Now we get to the meat and potatoes of it. All of this information that you've gathered, all of these insights that you've taken the time to etch out and understand about your brand, about your competition, about your market, all go together and help you formulate a holistic marketing plan. One that takes into account all the necessary platforms that you need to be on in order to reach your target audience, that maps out the most likely techniques and strategies that you need to implement both on the paid content and organic side of things in order for you to have the best opportunity to carve out your portion of your market and hopefully grow its share. Now, one of the key pieces of that holistic marketing plan are going to be well-structured, smart KPI goals, right? Ones that are obtainable, but are built off real insights and understanding and data. One that have real-time deadlines and your best estimate of the type of volume and hard numbers that you can anticipate. This goes from how much you should be spending in your ad budget, on what platforms, how many clicks you would like to see, how many sales you would like to see, what type of reach you would want to see. I recommend setting out KPI goals for every important analytic that you need to take into account in order to be able to optimize and improve the performance of your campaign.
A lot of people understand exactly what we're referring to, and they just are looking for that deeper dive, which we're getting to. But I also want to make sure that we do not leave out the people who are just getting started in this, the people who don't necessarily have a deep understanding of marketing. For their benefit, Rob, why don't we just really quickly cover what KPI stands for and why it's important?
Good point. And I think, Joe, in our experience, even the businesses that have been around for a minute that think they know their numbers don't really know the numbers that they need to know, right?
So, yeah, fair enough, right.
So thank you for bringing this up. Now, for those that haven't heard the term before, KPI is Key Performance Indicator. These are the numbers that you're tracking in order to measure how you are performing as a business and in your marketing campaign. Some of the basics are things like cost per click, reach, impressions, click-through rate, social proof numbers. Some of the numbers that businesses should know, but in our experience, many don't, are numbers like cost per acquisition. If you're a business, you pay to acquire a customer, whether that's in sweat equity or cold hard cash. Every customer that purchases from you, you've paid to acquire them. Now, most businesses don't know how much it actually costs to acquire a customer. There's a whole spectrum of how you figure out what that actual cost is. Now, digital makes that easy because you can know how much you paid for the ad campaign. You can know how many purchases came through your digital store. Heard it said one time, he who can pay the most to acquire a customer wins the ad war. And I would add to that, he who doesn't have to retires comfortably. But if you don't know how much you're paying, then you don't even know where you're at.
Thank you, Rob, for that wealth of information. What a great introduction to the course. As you can see, there is a great deal of data and information to cover. There's a lot of work that we need to do to build a comprehensive digital marketing strategy. We will provide you with all the tools you need, the links, the resources, the worksheets. All of that data will be contained in the course as we go through the modules, and all of the modules will be delivered once per week. There's a lot of ground to cover, and we'll help you through as much as we can. We definitely want to get feedback from you as you go through the course, so please feel free to reach out to ask us any questions you have. If you need information, we're here to help.
As they say, success leaves clues. So one of the most important aspects of designing a successful digital marketing strategy is understanding the clues that the market is leaving. That's the goal of this course. As Joel said, next week we'll be digging into the market analysis aspect of that. And we'll be running through the techniques, strategies, and provide you an understanding of the types of tools that you'll need in order to be able to do that for yourself.
Perfect. Couldn't have said it better. The market is changing drastically. And if you don't keep up with the market, especially now when there's so much going on, you're going to be blindsided. And there's a lot of companies out there that will be blindsided. You're going to need to know how to be effective in your marketing efforts if you want your marketing dollar to mean anything, and if you want to grow and scale your company. That's what we're here for. That's our expertise, and that's where we want to help you. Thank you, Rob, for all of the great information. Thank you, everyone, for participating. This is your course. Help us make it better. Take care, and we'll see you next time.